Welcome everyone to another video, and in this video I'm going to be going over the team I used for the Invitational held at Pokemon World. And first off, thank you to the Pokemon Company and to Niantic for sponsoring me. So hashtag sponsored, for to go to this competition, and I'm very grateful for them for giving me this tremendous opportunity. And also like to thank the other battlers, especially Poke AK, who helped me put on like a heck of a show, and super happy about how today went. But let's talk more about the team that I went through. I'm gonna go through the 6 Pokemon and the movesets and why I chose that moveset and why I chose that Pokemon. And then I'll talk about complementary Pokemon that worked really well together. So the first Pokemon is Azumarill, a staple of freestyle meta with Bubble, Ice Beam, and Play Rough. And I chose to go Ice Beam to cover Grass Pokemon, and I chose to go Play Rough to cover other Azumarills, and as well Sableye and Umbreon. And I felt like this Azumarill, this played out really favorable to me because my 2 toughest competitors in the tournament battles I had both had Hydro Pump and Ice Beam Azumarill, so if I ever get locked in that matchup, it would be favorable for my Azumarill. And next Pokemon is Skarmory with Air Slash, Flash Cannon, and Sky Attack. Skarmory, again, another staple of freestyle meta. Really amazing Pokemon, and I just really like using Skarmory. I also thought about using Altaria, but I figured Altaria would encounter Azumarill more often, and Skarmory has a better matchup against Azumarill. It does have a worse matchup against Swampert, but it's not too terrible of it's not an absolute terrible matchup like Azumarill and Altaria is. And next I chose to go Swampert. Swampert, really aggressive play, burns a lot of shields, does a lot of damage, can beat Skarmory, can beat the tanks, whether that's Lantern, Probopass, Bastodon, has really good matchups against it. Deoxys, Defense Storm Deoxys, arguably the best Pokemon in freestyle, and probably one that you likely can't leave off your team if you want to be competitive in freestyle. And I chose to go counter Rock Slide, Psycho Boost, and Rock Slide instead of Thunderbolt, even though I've scrimmed so much with Thunderbolt, is because Rock Slide has favorable matchups against Altaria, and then as well against Thunderbolt Deoxys, which is what I was most worried about in my more challenging competition. And Thunderbolt is really good against core meta, Azumarill, and Skarmory. So you kind of give up a little bit in those matchups in hopes that you win the matchup against Deoxys, and a few other more wider meta considerations. Next Pokemon is Umbreon, and I chose Umbreon to help me protect my defense Deoxys. I was trying to defend against Haunter, against Sableye. Those are really terrible matchups for Defense Storm Deoxys, especially Sableye. And Umbreon is the perfect complement to Defense Storm Deoxys. It does have a harder time against Razor Leaf and Charm users, but I didn't figure that too many people would be bringing Charm users, so I felt a little bit more comfortable in using Umbreon. And with Last Resort, it allows me to hit neutral damage against Azumarill, and that certainly adds up and helped me win at least one of my matchups. And the final Pokemon that I decided to bring is Tropius with Air Slash, Sleep Blade, and Aerial Ace. I chose to bring Air Slash to allow me to have a more favorable matchup against fellow grass Pokemon, whether that's Razor Leaf, Tropius, Venusaur, Meganium. I guess I would win the matchup against Meganium no matter what, but it allowed me to have favorable matchups against Venusaur, one of the toughest grass Pokemon in the meta, as people saw in Poke AK's use. It was absolutely brilliant, and he did a really amazing and excellent job. And Tropius with Air Slash does give up more of the matchup, still can potentially win or a CMP tie against Azumarill with Ice Beam, and then as well with Lantern, it should beat it pretty effectively, whether that's Charge Beam or Water Gun. So I really like pairing Defense Storm Deoxys and Umbreon really well together. They did a ton of work, and running Rock Slide on Deoxys really made it safe, especially when they didn't have a hard counter for Defense Storm Deoxys. When they didn't have Haunter and they didn't have Sableye, then I could more comfortably switch to Defense Storm Deoxys and not be as concerned in those matchups. If I were to change things, I might not bring Swampert. Swampert was really clutch for me in my first matchup against Carrie May, but was not that useful at all in my other matchups. Azumarill I would still bring, but I mostly used, I would say my most common lineup was Skarmory, Defense Storm Deoxys, and Umbreon. There's just a really strong pair of three that work really well together. Skarmory can take care of the Razor Leaf for grass users, and as well take care of the Charm users. So they all like fit each other very well. Defense Storm Deoxys has favorable matchups against Bastiodon and Probopass, and against Lantern, which are common threats to Skarmory. So really happy about my team and how it performed. I really liked other people's teams as well, especially Poke AK with a double flyer, and the use of Venusaur was absolutely beautiful, especially when people like myself didn't have Probopass or Bastiodon. So overall, pretty happy, and I really thought about changing Umbreon to Sableye, but I'm glad I stuck with my guns and brought in Umbreon. So hopefully everyone found that useful and helpful, and if you liked that video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, don't forget to subscribe, comment below on what would you bring in your freestyle team, and I'll see everyone